All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and welcome to our webinar. Today's topic is why you need cloud backup disaster recovery for your business. My name is Marilyn Shepard, Head of Channel Sales with Quorum, and I will be your moderator today. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started. You were automatically muted upon entry. And if you have any questions throughout the webinar, please enter them into the questions box on the bottom right, and we will answer the questions at the end of the session. We will follow up with you directly should we run out of time. The webinar is being recorded and the link will be available after today's call. Please reach out to our partner Covington & Associates to receive the recording link. Joining me today is Francis Covington, President of Covington & Associates. Francis has been in the business of providing business resilience solutions, business continuity, disaster recovery planning services, technical and consulting solutions for the government and commercial organizations for over 30 years. Much of this time was spent as an executive with several Fortune 100 companies, including IBM, NCR, and Northrop Grumman. Also joining me today is Gabe Gamble, VP of Product with Quorum. Gabe is an industry expert with over 20 years of experience in infrastructure and disaster recovery. And with that, we'll go ahead and get started. I will hand it over to Francis Covington.
Good morning. This morning, I wanted to look at this presentation objectively, and what I did was take slides from a presentation I'm putting together for the new ISO 22301 standard for 2019. This standard has been updated, and it is now the first update we have seen in 7 years. The standard concentrates on resiliency, validation, management, and prevention in this area. So when we start talking about things like disaster recovery, we're looking at things like high availability disaster recovery. Throughout this, we'll be asking you a series of questions we want you to take back to your environment and ask these questions internally. And the first one is, look at what you're doing. Understanding there's a new standard, there's a new requirement. So are you using the same things that you were doing 5 years ago in your backup and recovery solutions? If so, you probably are not going to be compliant. As we go forward, next slide, please. Thank you. As we go forward, we're looking at the metrics that are based on that standard. There's the RPO and the RTO. The RPO is what's important to your company. The acronym stands for Recovery Point Objective. The RTO is when does that application need to be available, and that's the Recovery Time Objective. So when we look at that and we start asking questions, one of the things we want to ask this time is, when was the last time you updated your RPO and RTO? Click on that, please. Thank you very much. This is a question that you really should be asking daily, because this has changed very dramatically and something that you have to look at backing up differently going forward. As we go on to the next slide, now you have to look at what are the concerns. What are people telling us? Well, last year I got the privilege of attending a lot of conferences with Deloitte, with Gartner, with Forrester, and I ended up last year with the 80,000 attendance forum in Las Vegas. That was the AWS forum for cloud. There were 4 areas that primarily concerned everyone, and that was the general consensus of what's going into 2020. Number 1 is security. Everyone is concerned about ransomware, and you look at things like Baltimore and Atlanta being attacked. When you understand this, there's a strong onus on the environment now to look at security a little bit differently than we've been looking at it. Number 2 is delivering a quality of service. You must deliver to your customer, or your customer will find a new vendor. And this is what we've been told by our customers. Number 3 is data retention. You're required to maintain that data both legally and for customer satisfaction. If customers feel they cannot rely on you to protect their confidential information, they're going to find another vendor that can. And lastly is cloud. We have been talking cloud, cloud, cloud for years. It is the number one issue on everybody's plate right now behind the other three. And the reason it is because some companies are going to the cloud still. Some companies are coming out of the cloud. Deloitte, in fact, discovered a whole new practice of transitioning their clients from those that went into the cloud back to their environment. So you want to look at solutions that support either going forward. So as we go forward into the next page, you have to decide, what do you need to or want to protect? Well, it's real simple. You have to protect everything from the smallest file in your infrastructure all the way up through the enterprise. Click, please. Thank you. Um, and when you are backing up and recovering all of this is the only way that you can ensure that you've got data integrity and data protection. This is what's critical to your environment going forward. So you have to make the determination. The next question I want you to write down is, what is critical to your organization or your business operation? So how do you determine what's critical and what's non-critical? Next slide, please. Thank you very much. As we determine what's critical and what's non-critical, there's a lot of factors that you have to understand. And some of the key factors is, number one, what's critical to your business. This is where you really make the determination. Every annual report I've ever read says it wants to reduce cost, increase productivity, and increase shareholder value. Those are your business objectives for 2020. I guarantee that your top executives have made that comment. So now you understand where the objectives are. You understand what your corporate goals are for the year. Now let's look at, what are your obstacles that you're going to face going into that? Well, first thing you've got is data growth. Data growth is forcing IT to look at other storage options. It is a huge, huge challenge. You're constantly growing. Reduced budgets causing fewer IT resources. Increased customer interaction with your IT environment. When you look at reduced budgets, for example, I worked on a project last year, and the IT director went to the CFO and said, we need to purchase some additional disk space. The IT director told the CFO, we only need about 125 bucks. The CFO said no. And for 125 bucks, they're risking now losing customer service because their system could go down because they're having caching errors. So when you're looking at increased interaction with your customers are interacting with your systems more now than ever before. Progressive Insurance, for example, is offering a situation whereas if you get in a small accident, you take a picture of your car, you send it in on their website, they send you a check. They are now eliminating a lot of their adjusters because they don't have to do this anymore because now it's an automated process. So customers are understanding that. So again, you've got the question here is, do you have a backup plan that's based on your critical versus your non-critical data? So when you look at it that way, you essentially are saying, I need to back up different areas of my business differently depending upon the needs of the company. So looking forward, what is the priority applications? Well, applications are interesting because, first of all, you have three levels of applications in your business. Number one, you have your critical applications. And those are applications that are generally customer facing. They need to be there always up and always running because every time you are not available, your customers cannot get access to you. Secondly, let's look at your less critical applications. It's interesting because becomes one of the most difficult areas to define. I worked with an organization last year where their CEO said his number one priority was email. Well, technically, that's not a business priority, but it's his priority. So that I would classify as a less critical application. And finally, you have non-critical applications. These are applications that can be up or down in a in a reasonable period of time. If you lose accounting, if you lose HR for a couple of days and the systems that support them, the business probably is not going to be impacted that dramatically. So that is a less critical application. So here you want to ask the question, do I have a separate backup plan for every level of application that we have? And that is really a strong question, because this is where the new standard goes. The new standard is identifying that you need to look at the different areas of your organization, and you need to back up according to what's critical, and you need to recover according to what's critical or most critical in the organization. So as we go forward, we next ask the question, so what's the solution? Well, the solution is very simple. First of all, we use cloud storage to reduce disaster recovery costs and ensure uptime availability for the critical applications. We can augment the disaster recovery plans because they're going to meet the new ISO standard. And we're providing on-demand disaster recovery solutions, most critical to meeting that standard. And you're orchestrating a disaster recovery end to end with complete awareness, governance, and control. And there is a practice we have called GRC. It's called Governance, Risk, and Compliance. And that is basically how you pass the audits that most of the major auditing firms, including us, provide. It basically is a list of standards that you have to measure up to meet that requirement. If you're doing all of this, you can now achieve a 55 to 70% reduction in unplanned downtime. And that's critical, because unplanned downtime is what is killing a lot of businesses today. So going forward, let's do a review real quick and a summary. Number one, you definitely want to use cloud for high availability and have a strategy that will back up and recover your most critical applications with cloud. You may want to use cloud for things like your email and things like that. Whereas that CEO, it may not be critical to the business, but it's critical to what he needs. And you probably want to look at a cloud hybrid strategy for your non-critical. The question here is, or the answer here is, it really depends on your recovery time objectives. Your clients, your customers clearly have to look at what is needed, when it's needed, what will most impact the business. Now, what we did last year, next slide, please, is we sat down and we went to the 6 leaders in the industry, and we developed a criteria on customer service, completeness of the backup and recovery solution, and management and control. We applied the standard to that, the new standard, and we came up with Quorum. Quorum was the only company that met every box, or checked every box that we had for what we wanted as a partner. We have partnered with Quorum, and I'd like to give them a few minutes to take over and kind of explain how the Quorum solution will help you meet those cloud characteristics. Gabriel, it's on you.
Thanks very much, Francis. I'm going to apologize right from the beginning. As you can hear, my voice is a little stressed from some flu that I'm just getting over. So bear with me as we go through these slides and we talk through the Quorum solution to meet the needs that Francis so well discussed just a minute ago. So, the first question that we ask is why backup, and why the way we do it is what Quorum has designed our solution to do is be easy. When you're facing a disaster, the last thing you need is complexity. In the 80s and 90s, your DR run book was probably a 500-page manual. Francis, you could probably attest, a 500-page manual of all of the steps you had to go through in order to recover all your systems back into production. So what Quorum did is we took all that complexity and we made it very easy and straightforward, where it's just a click of a button to turn on a machine and recover it. The next thing we did is we made ourselves agnostic to your environment so that we could actually be anywhere. So we could be on appliances locally, providing that quick recovery to your servers at the site. Or if your site were to go down in a disaster scenario, we have our cloud solution that would recover remotely. We can also put appliances remotely if you have multiple locations, so that you have every kind of situation you can do to recover your data. The next thing we did is, because we back up all your servers and we create these ready to run clones, for lack of a better word, of your machines, we've created a test environment that you can actually perform a full DR test without affecting your production environment at any time you want. In fact, we can test daily in a test environment within our appliances or within our cloud. So all of that capability is kind of built into the box, and then scale. Whether you're a small customer of 1 to 5 servers, or a big customer with 700 servers, our boxes and our solution can actually scale to fit any need. And that goes back to the sense that he was talking about with critical applications, non-critical applications. Because of the way we've designed our solution, we can provide all of those capabilities at every scale. So if you need a real-time recovery objective of under 2 minutes locally, but if you're in a disaster scenario, you need 4 hours, we can meet any kind of scale of recovery time objective, as well as infrastructure needed. So the cloud is very elastic in providing those solutions for you. And then last but not least is our security. We're a HIPAA PCI certified cloud, and everything in transit and everything at rest in any of our appliances or in our cloud is all encrypted to meet all of the security standards that we're seeing around the world. And in our cloud, every customer is set up with their own designated individual virtual firewall, so that any of the rules and access lists and methods that they want to set up for connection for their customers or for their user base, it's all set for them. So they don't need the actual keys to the kingdom in order to do that. They can actually set it up very specific as they would in their production environment. So what makes Quorum ideal for your solution? Our data backup and instant recovery is by far the easiest to use in the industry. What we've done is we've basically taken out all of the hard steps, so that we take the server, we back it up, and we don't care if that server is a physical server or if it's a VMware virtual machine or Hyper-V or Zen server or KVM, whatever hypervisor you're using. It doesn't matter to Quorum. We can back up that server and have every snapshot of every point in time ready and available to be run just by clicking a button. Our customer support is top tier. In fact, most of our support engineers have come from the managed service IT industry, having been in critical like banking IT industry or hospital IT industry, so that they have that background in understanding the criticality of getting these solutions back up and running. It's easy and it's simple. Our product requires no special training. We take you through a quick start session that shows you how to use the interface, how to start servers up. We've made this so easy. We often joke around that your CEO could actually log in and start servers in the event of a disaster, so your IT people could actually go on vacation. Quorum customers use us mostly because we are very compliance driven. So we have all of the compliance certifications and processes in place to make sure that your data is secure and ready to run should you have a disaster. Our solution is designed to not only back up your servers and provide all of the file level recovery capabilities that you would assume and want, but we also have the instant recovery capabilities. So we can address both your critical and non-critical servers all in one solution. You don't need multiple solutions in order to get all of your data backed up and your RTOs and RPOs at what makes sense for your business. And then as far as requirements, we're able to recover everything that you have in a matter of minutes. And we often, between us, we say, well, what is our RTO? It literally is the time it takes to boot your server. So all of our hardware and all of our appliances are built with hardware NVMEs to increase the IOP performance, whereas most backup solutions will only provide something like 1,200 IOPS on spinning disk. We'll be running at 25,000 to 30,000 IOPS on our base models. So you can see that we've actually designed the solution not only to be able to boot your server, but actually have it perform a production workload to give you that recovery and actually let you do the work that you need to do as a business. Our product works very simply. We can back up servers on your premises, or we can back up servers from a public cloud. So if you have servers running in your environment that are Azure servers or running from AWS and you're accessing them as production servers in your network, we can protect those as well. Now, whether we protect them directly to our cloud or whether we protect them to a local appliance, because of the way we've designed our systems, it doesn't matter. We can do either or both. So we have all of the capabilities to do everything that you need there. We have instant recovery, file level recovery, all the reporting and analytics you could want from a backup and recovery solution. And then we have the abilities to do archiving. So we can actually take snapshots of any of the backups that we have and hold them indefinitely for long-term storage. So if you have compliance requirements that say you need to keep data for 10 years or 7 years, we have all the capabilities to do everything for that, whether it be locally on your premises in the appliances or in the cloud. And creating an archive job and scheduling routine just takes a few minutes. And then, of course, again, we have the test and development boxes. So everything that we designed for the production workloads can be set up in a test environment. So you can do all of your testing, you can do upgrade testing, you can do, if you have a DevOps system in your network, you can do all of that without affecting your production environment. So a very flexible, very scalable, secure solution. So to give you an idea of how our product works, take your environment, maybe you have some virtual machines, you have some physical machines, maybe you have a SAN in there, you got some Exchange and SQL, all kinds of databases and applications going on that could be critical to your workflow. What we do is we're agnostic. We can back it all up. We don't care what it is. We just have to address it. So as long as we can see it, we can get it. We take application consistent backups. And what that means is a lot of services use crash consistent. And so what they're doing is copying the data off of the disk, and they're building a server that can boot, but that boot process is actually going to be it's going to pretend that if you unplugged your server and plugged it back in, what are the chances that your data would be all intact and nothing corrupted? That's a crash consistent recovery. For a file server, sure, that's fine. But if you're running a database, Oracle server or a SQL server or even Exchange, a lot of their data is actually held in RAM. So if you pull the plug, you're going to lose that data. With the Quorum solution, we can actually take all that data and we create an application consistent. So we use things like Microsoft VSS to quiesce that data and make sure it's a consistent backup that we then back up. Then once we have all that data, we can do all your file level recovery, and we would treat that whether it's a critical server or a non-critical server. If you were to lose the server, as you see in the diagram, those files would then be available on the on-queue. Single server failure. So let's say we lost a physical server. We can actually recover that server from the on-queue. Exchange would come right back up with the same IPs, the same workload, everything just as it was in production. If you have a SAN or multiple VM failure and you lost many things in your environment, because of the way we've designed with the IOPS and the hardware we provide, we could actually bring up your entire workload and it will perform. And then, of course, in the horrible event that you have a total site outage, the on-queue has the ability to recover from the cloud or from a second location everything that you have so that you can get everything back up and running. So to kind of sum it up, one-click instant recovery, high availability capabilities anywhere that you're deployed, whether it's locally, remotely, or in the cloud. Full protection of your mission-critical data, your mission-critical applications, your mission-critical servers, as well as your non-critical data and applications. Minimal IT resources because it really is a red light, green light, push the button to start the server scenario, and an intuitive UI and design that can scale with your user base and your customer needs. So to wrap everything up, do you guys have any questions, anything we can do an answer for you, anything that we've covered, or any questions out of the blue that you'd like to give us?
All right, thank you, Gabe. This is Marilyn. We have one question here for you. How are you backing up Exchange and SQL in the cloud?
That's a great question. So because we leverage Microsoft VSS, both Exchange and SQL can leverage that utility. So when we take a VSS snapshot, it'll quiesce that data. So it'll pull the data from memory down to the disk and make it into a state where we can then back it up. And when you turn on that server, because it's in that quiesced state, it will boot as if it were powered down gracefully and powered back up. But while we're taking the backup, it doesn't affect your ability to work in production. So we don't have to turn off the databases or freeze anything. We leverage that technology to get that backup and create that data. Now for SQL, we've actually taken it one step further. We can actually set SQL up so that your transaction logs are shipping to the OnQ2. So that can give you an up to the minute RPO, not just RTO. So it's not just the time you took from the last snapshot, but we can recover all the data up to the minute for those SQL servers to get you back up and running. It's a process that we actually use and are working with a lot of 911 software developers to roll out to the customers, nationwide.
Great answer. Thank you, Gabe. And we'll take one other question here from the box. This is for Francis. How do I go about scheduling a disaster recovery assessment with your team?
Real easy. We've got our contact information at the bottom of the screen. Feel free to reach out to me directly, and we will be more than happy to come in and or sit down and have a conversation with you over the phone, depending on your schedule, and determine what your specific needs are, what's right for your organization. Our focus is to work with you and utilize as much of your existing technology as we can to incorporate new solutions into your environment that will bring you up to the current standard.
Great. Thank you, Francis. And with that, I'd like to thank you for your time today. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Gabriel, for speaking today on a great topic of why you need cloud and disaster recovery backup for your business. Thank you, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you on our next webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you.